Chapter 1, The Silence That Started Everything. The first call went to voicemail. Jack didn't panic. Not yet. He stood beside the ER curtain, arms folded, listening to the soft hum of machines and the far-off sound of a monitor beeping in someone else's room. Helena was stable, but barely. A nurse had just adjusted her four-line, murmuring something about vitals being borderline. The air in the room felt like it hadn't moved in hours. He tried Vanessa again. Still nothing. He didn't leave a message this time. She never checked them anyway. Texts, then. First direct. Then a voice note. Then the family group thread she'd muted months ago. Vanessa. It's Helena. She collapsed. They think it's her heart. We're at Methodist downtown. They need her emergency contact. Still no response. Jack looked down at the folder in his hand, Helena's medical packet, pre-signed with directives she'd updated last spring. Vanessa had insisted on being listed first. Jack had warned her that responsibility wasn't decorative. He texted again. If you don't answer in the next 15 minutes, I'm overwriting you. 15 came and went. No dots. No reply. Nothing. At 11:43 p.m., Jack authorized Helena's surgical consult. Signed the updated consent. And sat back down in the vinyl chair with the folder across his lap like a shield. He didn't cry. He didn't pace. He just watched the curtain. The way her foot, barely visible beneath the sheet, shifted with every breath. A nurse stopped by with a warm blanket and a quiet glance. Still nothing from the daughter? Jack shook his head once. She's not her daughter. The nurse nodded slowly. Said nothing more. He leaned forward, elbows on knees. Scanned the ER waiting room through the crack in the curtain. A mother cradled a coughing toddler. A teenager nervously scrolling his phone with a wrist splint. Two police officers seated in silence near the trauma bay. But no Vanessa. At 12:07 a.m., Jack opened her Instagram out of muscle memory. Vanessa's most recent story had just gone live. A boomerang of her testing a cocktail garnish, some rooftop bar, a sliver of skyline in the background, candlelight flickering across a rented smile. The caption. Birthday weekend mode, activated, clinking glasses emoji, sparkles emoji. The silence wasn't an accident. It was curated. Chapter 2, History Repeats Loudest in Hospitals. Helena had always been stronger than she looked. In her 20s, she walked out on a marriage that nearly broke her bones. By her 30s, she'd built a bookkeeping business from scratch and raised a daughter who never once heard the word no unless it came with a replacement in hand. Vanessa had Helena's cheekbones and her spine, but none of her loyalty. Jack knew that now. Maybe he'd always known it. He stood by the vending machines just outside the ICU, arms crossed, watching the hazy flicker of fluorescent lights bounce off the linoleum floor. 2 hours had passed since the ER. Helena was still unconscious, recovering from a procedure the doctors had called routine with the kind of voice that meant risky. Jack had signed the consent. Not Vanessa. Vanessa hadn't even texted back. He should have expected it. The last time Helena had a major health scare, 2 years ago, gallbladder, Vanessa posted a photo from Turks and Caicos, tagging a brand deal and captioning it, healing vibes only, dizzy emoji, #detox retreat. Jack remembered showing it to Helena in the hospital that night. Her hand trembled as she smiled and said, "She's busy. Let her be." But this time, Helena hadn't said anything. This time, it was Jack in the hallway, holding a phone that refused to ring, watching the woman who'd once sold her wedding china to help him pay for law school fade behind a curtain while her own daughter staged another photo op. He stared at the last message again. Vanessa. It's your mother. She collapsed. They think it's her heart. Methodist downtown. They need her emergency contact. Still no reply. Still no call. Still no Vanessa. At 2:36 a.m., a nurse updated the whiteboard with a new timestamp. Jack took a photo. Not for sentiment, for record keeping. He wasn't just witnessing this anymore. He was documenting it. Chapter 3, Party Mode, Scheduled, Public, Untouchable. By morning, the silence had calcified. Jack sat at the edge of Helena's hospital bed, dressed in the same clothes from the night before. Her breathing had evened out, but the machines still whispered like they didn't trust it. He brushed a strand of hair away from her forehead and checked his phone again. Nothing. No missed calls. No texts. No sorry, I just saw this. Vanessa wasn't offline. She was louder than ever. At 9:12 a.m., her first story of the day dropped, a glittering table setting with her initials folded in gold at every plate. The caption read, "Tonight, we set the tone, clinking glasses emoji, #birthday weekend #Vanessa. Unfiltered." Jack watched the story play once, then again. He didn't blink. The location tag made it easy, a new venue downtown with rooftop access and elevated social dining. He'd read the pitch deck 6 months ago when she considered investing. She said it would be perfect for moments that matter. He put the phone down and stared at the IV drip beside Helena's arm. By 11 o'clock, the hospital staff began discussing next steps. Helena was stable but unresponsive, a soft coma, they said. Induced rest. They needed decisions made about monitoring, transfer, insurance updates. Vanessa was still the primary. Jack had submitted emergency override paperwork during the night, citing spousal proximity and medical urgency. It wasn't airtight, but it was enough to give him temporary clearance. Still, he knew it wouldn't hold if Vanessa challenged it. Assuming she even remembered signing the directive. Assuming she cared. At 12:42 p.m., Jack took a walk around the block. Not because he needed air, because he needed distance. Perspective. He stopped at a nearby bodega for bottled water and was halfway to the cooler when the girl behind the counter waved him down. "You're Vanessa's husband, right?" Jack froze. "Excuse me?" She smiled too brightly. "Sorry, I didn't mean to be weird. I just recognized you from her posts. I follow her." Jack said nothing. "She came in last night for champagne and, 7 bags of ice," the girl continued. "Said this party's gonna be wild." She laughed, then leaned in. "Tell her I love her dress in the promo video. That silver thing? Unreal." Jack nodded once, paid for the water, and left. He didn't break stride until he turned the corner. At 1:15 p.m., back in the waiting room, he pulled out his phone and opened a folder he hadn't touched in almost a year. Inside, photos of their marriage license, Helena's medical directive, and a digital signature authorization platform Vanessa had once used, the kind that logged IPs and timestamps. Jack scrolled past the wedding shots. He wasn't feeling nostalgic. He was building a case. Chapter 4, The Will, the Medical Directive, the Lie. Helena had been clear, no machines unless absolutely necessary. No extended interventions if the prognosis was poor. And Jack was to be consulted first, always. They'd gone over it together after her last hospital visit, over lukewarm tea and a stack of revised estate documents. Helena didn't fear dying. She feared being left in the hands of someone who treated responsibility like a costume. Vanessa had nodded politely at the time. Said, "Of course, Mother." But she never signed the updated paperwork. Instead, she'd submitted an earlier version, one that still listed her as primary for all decisions. She'd uploaded it to Helena's records 6 months ago. Without telling Jack. Without asking Helena. Jack found it in the hospital's digital patient portal just before noon, buried beneath a mislabeled file tagged Insurance Inquiry. He tapped the PDF. Scanned the signature. Vanessa's, in stylized script. Helena's. Forged. Badly. Jack didn't feel rage. He felt cold. He cross-referenced the document's metadata. It had been uploaded from Vanessa's work tablet, the one she used for managing sponsorships and building out her rebrand. The timestamp placed it 2 days after Helena's birthday. Jack remembered that day. Vanessa hadn't even called her mother, let alone visited. He opened a note app and started typing. Directive conflict, forged signature, version mismatch. Last valid directive equals 2021 version with Jack listed as proxy. Upload trail via Vanessa's work IP, confirmed. No contact from Vanessa as of 18+ hours since incident. He titled the note, Contingency A. The next hour was spent in quiet motion. Jack requested a physical copy of Helena's original directive from hospital archives. He called their estate attorney, left a coded voicemail. Then he forwarded Helena's latest insurance contact to the ICU team, letting them know a proxy challenge was in progress. The nurse nodded with something like relief. "You'd be surprised how often this happens," she said. "People want the title, not the weight." Jack didn't reply. He was already drafting an outline. At 2:48 p.m., he logged into the shared household filing cabinet Vanessa insisted they digitize. Buried between vacation receipts and property tax PDFs was a scanned version of Helena's handwritten will. It listed Jack, not Vanessa. He downloaded it. Backed it up 3 times. One copy went to an encrypted folder labeled Red Sky, a legal backup protocol he'd built back when he was still consulting on probate compliance. The other 2? One to a secured cloud. One to a flash drive he now kept in his inner coat pocket. At 4:03 p.m., Jack stepped outside the hospital for the first time in hours. The city was gold-washed in late afternoon light. Somewhere downtown, a rented venue was being transformed, string lights, floral installs, photo booths with custom neon hashtags. Vanessa would be perfect tonight. Her voice, her angles, her guests, all curated. But not her truth. That, Jack intended to deliver in person. Chapter 5, I told you she'd do this. The first time Kylie said it, they were standing in the hospital's side parking lot, just out of range of the security cameras. I told you she'd do this. Jack didn't flinch. Just kept his eyes on the flash drive in his palm, turning it over like he was weighing something far heavier. Kylie stood with her arms crossed, hoodie sleeves pushed up, earbuds draped around her neck. She looked nothing like the bridesmaid she'd once been at their wedding, and nothing like the girl Vanessa had described to her influencer circle as Jack's little tag-along cousin. Kylie wasn't blood. But she was loyal. More loyal than Vanessa had ever been. Jack had texted her that morning with a single line. Need a witness. Need you quiet. She'd replied with a thumbs up and a location pin 10 minutes later. Now, under the hum of a hospital floodlight, she handed him a pair of clip-on mics and a compact HD camera. GoPro in a clutch bag? Jack asked, raising an eyebrow. Kylie shrugged. Fashion's a weapon. She taught me that. I'm just using it better. He told her everything, or at least everything that mattered. The forged directive. The unanswered calls. The posts. The will. The plan forming quietly in his head. Kylie didn't ask if he was serious. She just started making a list. We'll need 3 angles at the party, she said. Main entrance, cake table, and wherever the step and repeat wall is. You know she's gonna make an entrance. Jack handed her a backup phone. Secure line. Private cloud. Encrypted uploads. No social. She rolled her eyes. Please. I've been dodging facial recognition since I was 15. Before she left, she looked at him once, the way only someone who's seen behind your quiet could. She's gonna act like she doesn't know what this is about, Kylie said. Jack nodded once. She's always been good at pretending. She won't cry. Not unless there's a lens. She won't need to, Jack replied. The footage will do that for her. By nightfall, Helena was stable enough for transfer to the long-term care wing. Jack rode in the back of the hospital transport van, hand still on the folder in his coat pocket. He didn't pray. He prepared. Chapter 6, Deactivation Notice. The first thing to go was the Amex. Jack opened the shared account portal at 6:12 a.m. and revoked Vanessa's access with a single click. No warning. No transfer. No explanation. She'd notice eventually, probably in the middle of checking out at a designer boutique or tipping the floral install team at her party. He didn't care. She could spin a story. But the card would still decline. Next came the utilities. Their home was legally still his, inherited from Jack's uncle, deeded before the wedding, and protected by an airtight prenuptial clause Vanessa once called adorable. Jack logged into the smart home console and removed her admin rights from everything: thermostat, security cams, door locks, voice assistant. The system defaulted to solo mode, one user. Him. The final login was for the joint scheduling app. He archived every upcoming event with her name on it. The screen flashed once. "Are you sure you want to delete this shared calendar?" Jack tapped, yes. Back at his desk, in the quiet rental that had been his real home for months, Jack opened his secure device and began uploading. The folder was labeled, Vault_X. Inside, the video of Vanessa pouring champagne while Helena coded in the ER. A screen recording of her Instagram feed during the crisis. Browser metadata from the forged directive upload. The audio of their last phone call, timestamped, saved, silent. Jack didn't need revenge. He needed receipts. At 9:13 a.m., Vanessa texted for the first time in 36 hours. "Did you cancel the housekeeper again?" She said the code didn't work. She still hadn't responded to his messages about her mother. Not the first one. Not the last one. But the moment her wine glass risked going unpolished, she found the time. Jack didn't reply. He watched the message for 5 long seconds, then tapped mute and moved the thread into an archive folder labeled, Pending Legal. Then he powered down the screen. No hotel. No scene. This wasn't an exit. It was an execution. The part where he begged was over. Now came the part where she listened. Chapter 7, House Not a Home. Jack didn't need a key to open the front door. The smart lock clicked open at 8:02 a.m., synced to his master credential, the one Vanessa had probably forgotten he still controlled. Inside, the house looked exactly as it had when he left it months ago. Technically, it was still his. Legally, too. But in spirit, it had become a showroom version of itself, all white marble trays and curated florals. A life arranged for strangers on social media. He stepped inside and closed the door behind him without sound. There were fresh peonies on the entry table. A champagne flute half full on the kitchen island. The faintest scent of hairspray in the air. Vanessa had hosted something. Or someone. Recently. She didn't know he was coming. Jack walked through each room methodically, not searching, not snooping. Just confirming. In the bedroom, her dresses were arranged in color-coded rows. In the guest bathroom, 2 toothbrushes sat in a silver tumbler, one clearly not hers. He paused at the closet. A pair of polished men's loafers rested neatly under the bench. Not his size. He took a photo. No emotion, just record-keeping. Then he moved to his old office and opened the drawer he used to lock. Still there, the notarized copy of the prenuptial agreement. He slipped it into a file envelope, along with a thumb drive already labeled H, Final Directive. This wasn't about catching her. That part was done. This was the staging ground, a quiet reset before the legal strikes landed. Vanessa hadn't been evicted. Not yet. But by the time her birthday toast ended, she would no longer live here. Not spiritually. Not socially. And not legally. Jack locked the drawer again, closed the office door, and walked out of the house with nothing but the envelope in his hand. He didn't slam the door. He didn't need to. He had already removed her access. The rest would follow. Chapter 8, The List. Sunday, 7:40 a.m. Jack didn't pace. He planned. His desk was cleared except for a legal pad, a ceramic mug of black coffee, and a flash drive marked in clean block letters. Directive, V2. The pad contained 4 entries, not scribbled notes, but sequence. Confirm directive fraud. Secure medical testimony. Lock power of attorney transfer. Deliver public service of court notice. Item 1 was already complete. The digital record was airtight. Vanessa had uploaded a forged directive from her work laptop using an IP address linked to a commercial Wi-Fi hotspot - not the hospital. The metadata showed a 7:11 p.m. modification time. That was less than 90 minutes before Helena coded. Item 2 was in motion. The attending physician had agreed to meet with Jack on record, pending legal counsel's involvement. The man had been cautious, but when Jack showed him the video of Vanessa laughing on camera while the ICU paged the crash team, something changed in his voice. "Let me know when your lawyer's ready," he said quietly. Item 3? Kylie was chasing it down. A quiet contact at the county recorder's office was cross-checking the POA file. Jack didn't need to argue that it had been faked, he just needed to show that Vanessa never filed the original paperwork correctly. Which left item 4. The drop. He sat back and tapped open the shared folder. Kylie had uploaded 3 new files overnight. Raw video from the party's photographer, steady, well lit, with crowd shots and clear audio. A screen recording of Vanessa's 10:03 p.m. voice memo to her brand manager. If my mother fakes another episode and ruins this party, Jack didn't react. He didn't need to. He downloaded the file, encrypted it, and dragged it into the legal folder labeled, Neglect, Confirmed. 11:16 a.m. A message from Kylie slid across his screen. Upload came from a hotspot near the venue. Directive edited 3 times between 6:42 and 7:11. Want a line-by-line comparison? Yes, Jack replied. And confirm who else was on the Wi-Fi at the time. He watched the blinking cursor for a moment. Then typed one more line. Also, she has another event today. Final location? Kylie replied instantly. Lakefront Estate in Edgewater. 3 p.m. outdoor terrace. I have RSVP list and permits. Jack didn't smile. He opened the final service prep folder, now updated with the petition, the complaint brief, and the list of 83 confirmed guests, including 2 lawyers and a media contact. All public. All visible. He would walk into the party at exactly 3:07. By 3:10, Vanessa would no longer be a decision-maker in anything that mattered. Not her mother's care. Not her marriage. And certainly not the narrative. Chapter 9, The Drop. Sunday, 3:03 p.m. The valet at the Edgewater estate didn't ask for a name. The car Jack drove wasn't one Vanessa would recognize, not the understated sedan from their marriage, and not the flashier coupe he'd sold after she started building a brand around quiet wealth. This car was leased under a business entity he'd created 3 years ago. Its registration traced back to a compliance shell. And the man behind the wheel looked exactly like someone you'd mistake for a consultant. By the time he stepped onto the front path, champagne was already flowing. The party spilled across 2 levels of the lakefront property, canopies stretched wide, women in blush tones with low chignons, floral installations that cost more than most court filing fees. Jack didn't look around. He walked straight through the front gate, past a server holding a tray of rosé, and up the stone steps toward the terrace. Vanessa stood at the far end, mid-conversation with a circle of people he didn't recognize. Her hair was pinned. Her laugh was the one she used for networking, bright, effortless, curated. She didn't see him at first. But her brand manager did. A flash of hesitation. Then a whisper into Vanessa's ear. Her body stilled. She turned. Jack didn't pause. He crossed the terrace with the steady calm of someone returning a borrowed item, no spectacle, no warning. From his jacket, he drew a legal envelope. Slim. Marked with the court stamp. In his other hand, a small GoPro clipped discreetly to his lapel blinked once. "Vanessa Hartley?" he said. She blinked. "What is this, you've been served?" Jack said, voice low but audible. The envelope passed from his fingers to hers. Inside were the following items: a petition to remove her from medical decision-making authority, a formal notice of preliminary injunction, affidavits from 2 attending physicians, full documentation of directive forgery, and an attached motion for evidentiary review, signed and filed that morning. Someone gasped. Not because of what was in the envelope, but because Vanessa dropped her champagne. The glass shattered against the slate tile. The terrace fell silent. Jack didn't linger. He turned and walked back the way he came, descending the steps with the same quiet precision that had brought him in. Behind him, a woman whispered, "Is that her husband?" Someone else said, "He used to be, but now? Who knows?" 3:11 p.m. Jack reached the curb, nodded once to the valet, and stepped into the car before the first shout came from the terrace. He didn't need to hear it. He already had the full video. And the moment. And every angle he needed. As he pulled away from the estate, his phone buzzed with a forwarded message from Kylie. A guest had uploaded the scene to their Instagram story. "Look who just served Vanessa at her party, eyes emoji, skull emoji." By nightfall, the clip would appear in 3 private group chats, 2 discrete accounts, and 1 forwarded thread that landed, by quiet inevitability, in Miriam Carson's inbox. What Vanessa had ignored in a hospital room, she would now face in public record. Because when you refuse to show up for family, sometimes family shows up in court. Chapter 10, Court Date Confirmed. Monday, 8:32 a.m. The docket loaded with a quiet blink on Jack's screen. Family Court, Division 3B. Petition type, Emergency Guardianship Review. Date, Friday. Time, 9 a.m. That was it. The official confirmation. No more side doors. No more polite requests. Just a courtroom, a bench, and a stack of facts sealed in numbered folders. Jack exhaled once, slow and even. Then he clicked out of the calendar and opened the exhibit master. Every file had already been reviewed. ER intake logs. Helena's cardiac rhythm chart. Missed call records with timestamps. Vanessa's edited directive upload. Screenshots of her story posts, live and tagged. But Jack didn't linger on any of it. Not this morning. He opened a clean browser tab and typed, "Can I cloud restore deleted app metadata?" Not because he didn't already know. Because he wanted to see if Vanessa would have known. She wouldn't have. She never checked the technicals, only the optics. 11:14 a.m. A ping from Kylie. I reviewed the version history. She changed the wording just before uploading, swapped physician consensus for personal discretion. That could seriously hurt her case. Jack didn't reply immediately. He was staring at the phrase Kylie had highlighted. Personal discretion. It wasn't just careless. It was dangerous. He finally typed, "Add side-by-side comparison to the evidence packet. Include access log timestamps." An hour later, his phone rang. Unfamiliar number. The voicemail transcribed on screen before he picked it up. "Jack. It's Miriam. I saw the clip. I'll testify. Just tell me when." Miriam. Helena's older sister. Quiet. Composed. The one person Vanessa couldn't spin a narrative around, not without risking the sympathy of everyone who knew her. Jack saved the message. Then wrote her name in the witness column, underlined once. That evening, Jack returned to St. Jude's. The hospital air always felt like a suspended breath, like everything in it was waiting for the next moment to happen. He made his way past the nurse's station without needing to announce himself. They'd started to recognize him now. A few even nodded. Helena was asleep. Her monitors blinked in slow green pulses. The fourth bag had been switched recently. Jack sat beside her and watched her chest rise and fall beneath the blanket. Her color was better. Her hands looked less fragile. He didn't say much. Just, "I told you I'd handle it." She didn't open her eyes. But her fingers twitched slightly toward his. A gesture that felt like recognition. Before he left, Jack pulled a sealed envelope from his inner coat pocket, not for Helena, and not for Vanessa. He approached the attending physician quietly and handed it over with a release form already signed. "This needs to be added to her file." The doctor read the label. "To the Honorable Court. Re. Helena E. Carson." Pre-incident statement. Jack didn't wait for acknowledgement. He turned and walked out, steady and silent. The next move belonged to the court. Chapter 11, Statement of Facts. The courtroom held a silence Jack knew well. It was the kind born of fluorescent lights and procedural tension, where every cough felt loud, and every page turn meant a shift in someone's future. Vanessa sat at the respondent's table in a silk blouse the color of bone. Polished. Controlled. Her lips pressed into a calm that tried too hard not to crack. Jack didn't look at her. The judge entered. Everyone rose. "Be seated," the bailiff said. The clerk read the case aloud. Hartley v. Hartley, petition for temporary guardianship and injunctive relief, re. Helena E. Carson. The judge looked up. "Mr. Hartley, you're representing yourself?" "Yes, Your Honor." Vanessa's attorney, a silver-haired man with a crisp blue tie, stood next. "Your Honor, the respondent maintains that this filing is an overreaction to a simple miscommunication during a high-stress medical situation." Mrs. Hartley was not acting with malice. She was acting under the belief that she was following her mother's directive. Jack didn't flinch. He waited until the judge turned to him. "Mr. Hartley?" He stood, calm and deliberate. "I've submitted Exhibits 1 through 12. They include a screen recording from the emergency department's call log, showing 7 missed calls to the respondent's phone over a 46-minute window. During that time, Helena Carson, my mother-in-law, coded once and was revived without authorization because a nurse made the call." Vanessa's posture shifted slightly. She uncrossed and recrossed her legs. Jack continued, voice steady. "Exhibit 4B is a screen capture of Mrs. Hartley's Instagram story, posted during that same window. It shows her at a private lakefront estate, holding a glass of champagne with the caption 'Grateful for today,' dizzy emoji, #birthday, mood." He paused. "Let it land." The judge looked at Vanessa. "Mrs. Hartley, were you aware your mother had been admitted to the hospital?" Vanessa's attorney rose. "Objection, my client was not properly notified." Jack's eyes didn't move. "She was texted. Called. Left voicemails. All documented." The judge nodded slowly. "Objection overruled. Mrs. Hartley, answer the question." Vanessa leaned forward, voice tighter than she intended. "I didn't check my phone right away. It was my birthday. I was hosting." Jack cut in, calm and brutal. "You were hosting while your mother went into cardiac arrest." The judge raised a hand. "Mr. Hartley." Jack didn't speak again. He didn't need to. The judge turned to the exhibits. "I also see there's a claim of document alteration?" Jack stepped forward. "Yes, Your Honor. Exhibit 7 is a side-by-side comparison of the medical directive Helena signed 2 weeks prior, and the version uploaded by Mrs. Hartley." He handed over the printouts. The original states, "Upon joint physician consensus in the event of a life-threatening emergency." The uploaded version reads, at the discretion of the guardian, if continued care is deemed excessive. The judge squinted at the wording. That's not a minor change. No, sir. It's a complete shift of authority. Vanessa's attorney scrambled for a defense. There's no proof my client authored the changes. Jack spoke again, quiet and lethal. The file was accessed from her work laptop. At 11:42 p.m. the metadata is included. Then came Miriam. She took the stand without theatrics. A small woman with sharp eyes and a steady presence. I'm Helena's older sister, she said. And I reached out to Vanessa the morning after Helena was admitted. And did she respond? The judge asked. Not directly. I saw a post later that day. About a party. I sent her the room number and the attending physician's name. No reply. What, in your opinion, would Helena have wanted? To live, Miriam said. To be given a chance. And to be seen as more than someone else's inconvenience. The courtroom stayed silent for a full 10 seconds after Miriam stepped down. Then the judge spoke. This court finds sufficient cause to temporarily revoke the respondent's medical guardianship authority pending a full evidentiary hearing. Vanessa inhaled sharply. Her mouth opened, but her attorney held her arm. Jack didn't blink. I'm also referring the matter of potential directive tampering to the county investigator's office. A full review will be scheduled. The gavel hit once. And it was done. Outside the courtroom, Jack didn't wait for confrontation. He walked past Vanessa as she spun to follow him. You think this makes you the hero? She hissed. Jack stopped just long enough to reply. No, he said. Just the one who showed up. Then he walked into the light beyond the doors. And didn't look back. Chapter 12, The New Custodian. Jack didn't celebrate. There was no moment of triumph, no theatrical sigh of relief. Just the quiet hush of his rented home, the one he'd moved into 3 months ago when the marriage finally fractured for good. He locked the front door behind him. A habit. Not because of fear, but because of routine. The ruling sat in a manila envelope on the counter. The same counter where he'd sorted witness statements, scrubbed metadata, and written the motion that changed everything. He didn't reread it. He didn't need to. By 9 a.m., he was back at Street Jude's. No more visitor check-ins. His name was on file now, legal custodian, confirmed and notarized. The nurse greeted him with a subtle nod. Vitals are holding steady. She asked for more water this morning. Jack smiled faintly. Good sign. He stepped into the room like he belonged there. Because now, he did. Helena's eyes fluttered open as he approached. Her hand twitched, then stilled. But the recognition was there, in the way her mouth curved, barely, and her brow relaxed. He sat beside her and placed the leather folder on the tray table. No ceremony. No drama. Just pages, waiting. The first, the court's ruling, printed and embossed. The second, a fresh, unaltered care directive, one that actually protected her. The third, a letter he had rewritten 3 times but never changed. He read it aloud. Not all of it, just the parts that mattered. It spoke of guardianship. Of choice. Of how trust isn't earned in ceremony, but in showing up when no one else does. Helena didn't speak. But her eyes shone with something clear. Relief? Or maybe just peace. That afternoon, Jack sat with the long-term care coordinator. Her name was Faye. She had a notebook filled with contingency plans. Jack had answers for all of them. Yes, Helena would transition to private care. Yes, the facility had been vetted. Yes, he had already prepaid the deposit. When asked about family visitation, he didn't flinch. She'll have visitors, he said. Just not the kind who show up late and smile for photos. Back at the rental, the air smelled like eucalyptus and paper, the remnants of strategy. Jack poured himself one glass of water. Sat at the edge of the bed. Logged into the encrypted archive. He didn't delete anything. Not the footage. Not the call logs. Not the directive metadata. Not even Vanessa's text about the housekeeper. He simply moved the folder from pending legal to closed custody. Then he powered down the system. Outside, the wind shifted. A storm was coming, not literal, just the kind that rearranges lives. Vanessa would rage. Spin stories. Maybe even try to reclaim control. But she wouldn't get it. Not this time. The narrative had already changed. Epilogue, when the music fades. The invitation arrived a month later. Heavy cardstock. Gold foil lettering. Embossed with Vanessa's signature flourish. Vanessa Carson Hartley. Cordially invites you to the Women in Legacy Awards. Honoring generational impact and wellness advocacy. Jack stared at it for a full minute before setting it on the table. No return address. Just a QR code RSVP. Helena wouldn't be attending, of course. She was finishing her third week at Willow Glen Recovery, where the nurses knew her name and called her Sunrise because she always woke just before dawn. She laughed more now. She'd asked for Joni Mitchell during physical therapy last Tuesday. And Jack, who didn't cry, not really, had stepped out into the hallway when the first verse played through the speaker. The court ruling had granted him full custodial rights. But Jack didn't stop there. 2 weeks after Helena's transfer, he filed the final set of papers. Dissolution of marriage. No reconciliation. The prenup made it clean. The evidence made it bulletproof. No drawn-out depositions. No bargaining. No apologies. Just a clean slate. He let his attorney handle the paperwork, and the house. Jack didn't need to change the locks again. Vanessa never returned. The media never picked up the courtroom filing. Jack hadn't leaked anything. He didn't need to. But word traveled? Quietly. Especially among the people who mattered. When Vanessa's next brand sponsor dropped her, citing ongoing reputational concerns, she blamed trolls. When her podcast episode on eldercare was quietly pulled by the hosting platform, she blamed algorithms. When the nonprofit she'd once co-founded removed her name from the advisory board, she said nothing at all. One afternoon, Jack passed her downtown. She didn't see him. She was on the phone, gesturing tightly, trying to hail a car. There was a stain on her sleeve. Her voice was brittle. He didn't stop. Didn't speak. Didn't need to. Back at the house, his house, the one that echoed now with silence instead of spin, Jack stood in the center of the living room and listened. No noise. No accusations. No curations. Just the sound of his own decision. He crossed to the bookshelf, reached behind an old finance textbook, and pulled out a worn photograph. Helena. Younger. Smiling, sunlit, real. He placed it on the mantel. No frame. No caption. Just the truth.
Thanks so much for watching. If you love a good revenge story, or if you've ever dreamed of getting the last word without saying much at all, you're in the right place. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new savage ending. Because around here, karma always hits different.